Let me just initialize it. Just clean it up. Okay, so here, one thing I'm going to do, remember we did the eyeball before. We created the eyeball in the past lesson. And I told you that some people prefer to really, separate the R's from the sclera, because it's easier to just like define a different material if you want to go for something a little bit more specular in the R's or not. And but the thing is, like for my personal work, I'm just like trying to show different ways you guys can do stuff. But for my personal work, what I do, I normally keep it together. So I just like put together the sclera and the R's as a single thing, and then I play with the maps if I need more specular. But in this case here, what I did, I just combined back the R's and the sclera. So I'm bringing like a whole for me here. So if you're familiar with how ZBrush does UVs, the thing is, like the levels we have in this class, they are fairly different. Some people have a lot of experience, and some people don't have a lot of experience. So from time to time, I'm going to go back to some basics just to get people started. So for example, with the eye right here, one thing I like to do, ZBrush has this very, very useful UV Master plugin. And then it creates automatic UV for you, basically. So if I just do like without anything here, just go and do like using the default settings, and I just do an unwrap, and then I go here back and I do a flatten, you're going to see that's basically the UV that ZBrush created for me. In most cases, it works fine. I mean, like we can just use this one and start painting, doing the whole displacement, and at the end export this base mesh, and then have everything matching. But then sometimes it's good if you can separate certain things. So ZBrush, I'm going to just click back to unflatten here to go back to that mode. ZBrush has this polygroups option here under the UV Master that can come handy sometimes, depending on what you're doing. If it's a very complex mesh, it's a whole body, you don't want to ask ZBrush to unwrap everything as a single piece. So one thing that's interesting, you can use the Control and Shift, and you can just use this to hide and unhide stuff, right? Oops, I have a... So I'm going to Control Shift and then press Alt. It turns red, so I can add to that selection. So, and then Control Shift and open a little, drag a little window outside. It kind of inverts the selection for you. So with this one there, I can just go to Polygroups and I can say Group Visible. So now I have two different groups, right? And then I can just do the same thing with this guy here. So just the iris area, I'm going to do a Group Visible as well. So now I have three different groups. And if I ask ZBrush, let's just lock this one in there. So remember before when I flattened the whole thing, ZBrush showed me this way. As I said, it's completely fine. You can use this way, but just since I'm talking about this, and since it's something that can be used for the rest of the body, using this method of polygrouping stuff and then using polygroups here for UV Master, when you do the unwrap and then you flatten, then you're going to see that ZBrush separates those things for you. So that way is easier for me to paint the iris because it's a flat surface right there. Not easier. It's going to be the same because we're going to be painting in 3D. But I mean, if I need to detail later on in Photoshop, it's interesting that I can see the iris as a single piece there, you know. So that's another way to do it. Just so an example. I'm going to turn off polyframe right here, and I'm going to subdivide it. I have my UVs created already, so I can start like subdividing. And I got to 63,000 polys. I'm going to get once more 254,000, 1 million polygons, and then 4 million polygons. So with 4 million polygons, you can put plenty of detail in there. And there are like many ways to create detail. I'm gonna just open here some examples of the eyes I posted last time when you're talking about this, and I show you those beautiful pictures of macro photography of the eyes, showing like how the eye structure is, how the whole form inside of the eye is. So when you look from distance, it looks just like, it's an illustration. It's just like those little rays in there, but actually those things are form, right? Like everything is a structure. It's like a bunch of canyons connecting with each other. So in order to get like some realistic results, you don't actually need to do all this stuff. But for close-ups, if you want to do go for something extremely realistic, it's interesting if you can actually try to reproduce those canyons, because that way you make sure that the light is going to behave the way it should, right? So in order to do that, here in ZBrush you have this under texture. You're going to see there's this on and off here. That's for ZBrush Spotlight, and then Shift Z is the shortcut. So it's not showing anything yet because I don't have any texture selected. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click this one here, and I'm going to import texture that I already have saved in my folder here. Let me just remember where exactly. Did I save it here? I think it's actually under here, eyes. Let me just see, date. Actually, by the dimension, you're gonna get like the biggest one I can have. I think that's the one. Okay, so now I'm gonna be using this texture right here. Right? It's one of the pictures I found on the internet. It's like pretty big. It's like almost 3,000 pixels by almost 2,000. So if you click on that one, or any other picture you find, you can just click on and off here. Oh, actually you have to add it first. So you're going to add to Spotlight. So I have clicked the texture, click this guy here, and that becomes the Spotlight. And the way that Spotlight works is, just turn up Lightbox. If you click in any place inside of this circle right here, you can move stuff around. And then that little circle in the middle is basically the axis where the scale is going to happen. So if I click this one here and move to the center of the eye, right there, and then I can move this one to the center here, I have an idea of how this thing is going to scale down. So if there's this whole menu section here, you can look and see like what each one does. It rotates and scales and change the transparency and things like that. So for the scale here, I'm gonna just I can make it even more transparent. Right here, the opacity, right, and I can see what's going on in there better. So I'm gonna reduce even more. Actually, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just scale up the eye, almost like until the iris completely fills the screen right here. I don't know what resolution I'm gonna get because yeah, it's not a lot right now because I want to make sure this streaming is going smooth for you guys. So to go in and out of this mode here, you just press Z. So to go to Spotlight is Control Z is the shortcut, but then once you have the image loaded, just Z, you go in and out, right? So this way here, I can just move it again to around the middle right there. And then I can scale it down again. Oops, I scale it up. So until it covers the iris completely. So that's basically what I got. So I'm going to go back to the opacity here just to check. It's a little bit big. Just going to make it a little bit smaller. Opacity. That sounds okay. So here you're going to notice that I have like a lot of reflection and other things in this side, but this side is fairly clean. So I'm going to be painting that side first. So what you're going to do, you're just going to keep RGB on, turn Z add off, and then you press Z to get out of that mode. Oh, actually, I press paint here. Let me just opacity. Oops, You actually need to press paint, but so, and then now I can paint the texture directly in there, right? So I'm going to paint just that area. I can clean it up later. So try to get the maximum here. Use the maximum area I can before I start getting into that weird reflection in there. Oops. And then now if I press Z again, I get back to that mode. And since my rotation is in there, I can just click rotate right here and find some other area with cleaner. I can get more detail for the other side. So if I'm happy with that one, I just press Z again. And then of course you can always control the RGB intensity if you want to blend things better. But then, yeah, once you're happy with that, you know, I'm not going to probably finish it here because of the time constraint, but that's basically the idea. Oops. You're going to be actually adding texture like that, and then you can save this texture once you're done with it. Actually save just the ZBrush file. I can kind of show you later if you don't know how to extract all those things. But for the purpose here, what we want is to actually get the form back, like those canyons and things like that. So what you're going to do, I'm going to just turn, I'm going to click this guy here, the masking. Another masking, there is an option that says mask by color. I'm going to be clicking mask by color, and then I'm going to say mask by intensity. And now the mask is based on the color itself. So if I go to Polypaint and I turn it off, I'm going to see you just have you know, a mask in there. So now with RGB on, I can just, you know, let me just say like 15 would be okay. And then, oops, man, RGB, just Z add. And even Control H, you actually hide the mask, so you don't need to see the mask. So Control H to hide it. So if you hide it here, it's sliding a little bit in there for some reason. Just go back here. You can use Inflate, or you can just paint by hand. I like painting by hand because I can see what I'm doing better. I need to fix a lot of stuff. So this way, you start getting some interesting detail in there. And of course, like everything here, I'm doing like just with a temporary texture, and you should have like a full texture in there, rounded, so you can actually add the detail in the place you want. But then, of course, you can consider this as being like your final work, or you can just go ahead and, you know, it's like if you want to make it more realistic, and you know, you can just go and resculpt all those little cavities. You know, it's like add like a little bit deeper cavities, reinforce those ones. Oops, what am I doing here? Why is it shift? It's like it's smoothing a little bit for some reason. But anyway, so yeah, this is one way to create the iris. The other way would be, of course, like sculpting by hand, or there are other things you can do. You can create an alpha in Photoshop and then just go here and then sculpt using the alpha. But this is gonna be one of the assignments for this week, to just, you know, use this tool and create the iris texture for it. And then, of course, the texture should match what's happening with the displacement in there. So this is going to become really handy when you start rendering stuff. So this is it for that part for the eye. That's basically not a lot of you know, work on the pores or anything like that for now. But let's get to the pores detail.